Greetings to all our participants and guest speakers. Thank you so much again for joining this event. So again, as Dr. K. Aviso introduced, this is the LaSalle Sustainability Lecture Series. Um, my name is Eunice Chua, and I will be the moderator for tonight's event. But before we proceed with our speakers for tonight, we would like to invite Dr. Raymond Tan, the Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation, to give us a quick opening remarks before we begin. Dr. Raymond Tan?
Yes, thanks very much, Eunice. Colleagues and friends, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Firstly, I wish everyone is safe from the pandemic and reasonably in good physical and mental health. This is, of course, the 9th lecture in this sustainability lecture series that is a joint initiative of the IALU network, a global network of Lasallian higher education institutions, and the LaSalle University, whose university colors officially are green and white. And we've worked through 2021 to engage the network institutions to help us showcase care for our common planet, our common home, in this lecture series by looking at different aspects of the Sustainable Development Goals and inviting our best faculty members and researchers to share our own modest contributions to the concerns of the times. And thus, as we begin to conclude the third quarter of 2021 and look ahead to perhaps a brighter year in 2022, I'm glad to note that we have our first set of speakers from Spain. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Of course, in conjunction with our colleagues from the Philippines, this brings us to, if my reckoning is accurate, we've had speakers from the Philippines, from Palestine, from the US, and now from Spain. And of course, we have had audience members from 5 of the 6 inhabited continents, which is an excellent way to begin the year and to engage everybody, not just the Lasallian community, but in fact, we have guests and regular participants in the audience who are, like us, concerned with sustainable development, but they are, of course, in academia or in government or in the private sector. And thus, as we begin tonight's lecture, I just want to say, to conclude my brief remarks, I'm glad that this lecture series has taken on this momentum. I'm glad that with the assistance, with the initiative of Chancellor Emeritus Dr. Carmelita Quebenco, we've actually gotten to engage Lasallian partners from different parts of the world, and we do look forward to continuing this into 2022 and beyond as we use our minds and our expertise to build a more sustainable future for the young people that are in our care. Thank you and good evening and good afternoon.
Thank you so much, Dr. Raymond Tan. So we will now begin our lecture series for today. So welcome again to the LaSalle Sustainability Lecture Series organized by the LaSalle University and the International Association of LaSalle Universities. Our topic for today's lecture is Exploring Sustainable Sensor-Based Smart City Services. 2 LaSalle universities will present their research in smart cities today. We have professors from LaSalle Universidad Ramon Llull of Barcelona, Spain, and the LaSalle University, Philippines. So please allow me to introduce our speakers from LaSalle Universidad Ramon Llull Barcelona. Our first speaker will be introducing different research and technology transfer activities at the university, including groups and institutes with special attention to those activities related to smart city and sustainability. She is currently the director of the research at LaSalle Universidad Ramon Llull and associate professor of the Department of Engineering and a member of the research group on media technologies since September 2015. So let us all welcome Dr. Rosa Maria Alsina. Welcome, Dr. Rosa. Dr. Rosa, we can't hear you. No, we can't. Sorry. All right. So as we wait for Dr. Rosa to um hold on.
Hello, now? Is it okay?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I'm sorry, it just
No.
worked when we tried it, but it doesn't work now.
It's okay.
Sorry.
So-
Thanks for the invitation and thanks for the introduction. If it's okay, I start sharing my screen.
Yes.
Yeah, I hope it works. So, good morning, afternoon, or evening to everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you today. Representation a little bit of La Salle Universitat Ramon Llull in Barcelona as Director of Research. I will try to give you a kind of overview of what we do as La Sallian researchers here in Barcelona, and which is our structure, which are our main topics, and what does all this research have related to sustainability and overall related to our students too, and their education. So as the first slide, just welcome you to our campus. We have several buildings where we teach our grades and masters and also PhD careers of our students. And as we cannot be here, you cannot be here in a presential manner, not only due to the pandemic, but also because it could be really difficult. At least you can see a little bit of our environment, of our surroundings. We have what we call a pocket campus most of the times because it's not really big, but has lots of services for our students and for our lecturers and professors. And another thing which I think it's quite relevant to explain is the university we belong to as a federal member. La Salle is one of the founding members of Universitat Ramon Llull, which is a private university here in Barcelona, with La Salle as a member teaching engineering, architecture, management, and also animation and digital arts, but with other members who teach, for example, education, communication, or business and law, and also chemistry and other kinds of engineering, not also telecommunications engineering, and even design. So we are a group of institutions that we gather together in order to build a federative university, keeping all the institutions their own juridical personality, heritage, and responsibility, and of course, values and vision and mission. So when we present ourselves as La Salle Universitat Ramon Llull, it means both things. We are very La Sallians, but we do also belong to another collaboration between Christian and Catholic institutions. So about research and technology transfer, I would like to explain you that we have quite a lot of experience especially in the field of engineering and technology, more than 100 years of history. Nowadays, we have included other knowledge areas as architecture, management, and also animation and digital arts. But this heritage is nowadays structured into 6 research groups. About internet technologies and storage, media technologies, integrated architectural research, about entrepreneurship and technology-based innovation, data science applied to different fields for the digital society, but also for companies and and even to the CERN lab in Europe, the accelerator of particles. And finally, but not least, technology-enhanced learning, because one of our focus, obviously, is education. And all these research groups do also belong somehow to one integrated technology transfer center that is recognized by Technio. These two of our are recognized by the Catalan government. It's on one field, the research field for the research groups, and on the other side, this technology provider idea of the Catalan government related to companies. For firstly, the closer companies to our university, but also around the world, as we can explain that we can provide technology. Coming obviously from our research groups. So how big we are, who we are. We are around 80 researchers with around 40 PhD students working with the research groups. And this is more or less our activity. Nowadays, the picture today is that we have 31 public funded projects, which stand for European projects, H2020 and future, hopefully, Horizon Europe. Spanish funded projects, which come from the ministry mainly of universities and science, and Catalan funds. We do also work quite a lot for companies, for private companies, both in research and technology transfer projects. We have up to 23 private company projects nowadays. We have 8 own founded projects from the own university, from Universitat de Montjuïc. And apart from all these projects, we do conduct today two singular projects funded by European funds, which one is already transformed into a lab, the Internet of Things Institute, from where both Francesca and we are right now, and a future one, which is called Interactive Arts and Science Lab. That it's another concession we have had recently, and we'll start its building and its design soon. To be finished in around 2.5 years or 3 years. So it's part of what. So this is somehow the figures, the numbers, but from our vision and mission, and really based on our 3 founding values, we are firmly convinced that people, so mainly our students, can transform the world in the future. So that this world can be a more fair world for everybody, and also a more sustainable world, to be much more respectful with everything that has been given to us. And we do have this responsibility, and we do have also this responsibility to transmit to our students in their proper academic development and their personal growth, these values. So we do firmly believe that research and technology transfer is an essential tool, not only for researchers to change the society and to change the world, but also to teach our students in order that in the future they can change the world from their places in companies, anywhere they can work in the world. So for us, this let's say this scope of research, which is based on sustainability, not only, probably we could also put health in these research scopes, but the one that gives the lecture today is about sustainability. So for us, it's a core issue. And what I'll try to do now is just to explain some research projects in which some of our students have been involved, coming from several research groups. This is not an issue from 1 or 2 of our research groups, but from most of them, so that you can have a little bit of a sight of this idea in a more transversal way. The first one is a project coming from RATIM, which is our research group more related to innovation and to entrepreneurship. And it was an innovative training network funded by the European Commission. The goal was to improve the work and the communication and the coordination between institutions when there's a heavy crisis, a huge crisis. So this side of working in terms of management about humanitarian crisis response, logistics, coordination and collaboration between institutions was one of the main goals of this project. They managed to get a handbook of, let's say, good practices of managing these situations, and also a collection of e-learning modules to disseminate these new programs. Another project that comes from our, let's say, more closer to education research group, which is the Game for City. It was funded by the Spanish ministry inside the national program of research, development and innovation. And its goal was to improve the public engagement in urban decision-making processes using technology, mainly using virtual gamified technologies, and trying with this interactive proposal to do a better evaluation for the design solutions of, for example, urban environments and their possible modifications. Was participating citizens, neighbors, schools, and other stakeholders interested in that future vision of the city and the smart city. Another project, not as urban as the previous one, and also funded by the Spanish ministry, is still ongoing, is the design of a sensor network to transmit data from really remote places. A secondary goal of this project is the communication via ionospheric propagation in case of heavy crises, for example, earthquakes or other natural disasters that can maybe cancel somehow the regular communications we have with the world. So these researchers usually work in Antarctica, but this can also be tested and has been tested here in Catalonia in faraway locations in order to see if the communications is possible. Another one related more to building is Build to Spec, which was an European Commission Horizon 2020 funded project. And its goal was to provide new and innovative tools to help to achieve efficiency targets for both new, so revisiting buildings that were already built, but also for new designs. And it was based on a prototype, which is the one in the picture, of an omnidirectional parametric loudspeaker, which was used to test the acoustics of the new buildings or of the old buildings that were under renewal. And finally, but not least, a project coming from the research group in architecture. It was called Semanco, and it was an FP7 funding, so also European Commission funds. And the goal was the creation of a new platform to provide access to widely dispersed energy-related data. So it was a project centered in energy efficiency, with several different actors involved, from architects, urban planners, engineers, and also, of course, policymakers and citizens that are highly impacted for this concern. And it was somehow the design of a tool that was pretended to gather quite a lot of information in order to have it centered in just one platform and improve the quality of the decisions due to the fact that there was more information available. And in this sense, also even the data repository collected during the project is a high valuable issue in terms of output due to its the information it gives to take decisions. So I hope that this at least gives you an overview of the different issues we conduct in research. I have not entered at all to the research line that my colleague Frances will explain just after me. So all the acoustic issues have been left apart, despite they are one of the strong research lines in sustainability. But I would like to invite you to read a little bit more about the research we conduct here in La Salle Universitat Ramon Llull in Barcelona. And you can find this document about report of research activity of these years that was finished a couple of years ago, which is much more complete than what I already explained you and can give you much more information about what we do. And thanks for your attention.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Rosa. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to post your questions in the chat box, either here on Zoom or in the YouTube channel where we are currently live streaming. So we will answer all questions after all of our speakers are done presenting their talk. So our second speaker for tonight will be also from LaSalle, Barcelona, who will be talking about audio signal processing for noise monitoring in smart cities. He is currently a professor at the Department of Engineering at LaSalle URL, currently serving as the coordinator of the research group on media technologies since 2014, after being the director of human-computer interaction R&D area from 2011. His main research interests are audio and speech processing and natural interaction. Dr. Alias has led and participated in different R&D projects and has published more than 150 articles in national and international conferences and journals. So let us all welcome Dr. Francesc Alias. Hello, Dr. Francesc.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody. And thank you very much for your kind invitation. I'll share my presentation. Okay, is it okay? So thank you very much. It's a great pleasure for me to present this webinar, let's say, about audio signal processing for noise mapping in smart cities on behalf of the Research Group on Media Technologies here at LaSalle Campus Barcelona. Just to follow up the presentation from Dr. Alsina Pagès, just to share with you which is our vision as a research group. We try to improve people's well-being by modeling and understanding ourselves, human beings, machines, their environments, and also their mutual interactions. We address this vision by means of several research lines, which are mainly focused on acoustic signal processing and interaction, and we develop new technologies in several domains such as sustainable mobility, healthcare, and experience-based industries. Regarding the topic of the talk, why environmental noise? Environmental noise, from our point of view, is a relevant aspect that should be considered, as well as air pollution, to achieve sustainable cities due to its critical effects on public health. As stated by the World Health Organization, at least 1 million healthy life years are lost every year from the main noise source in cities, which is traffic. And in particular, for instance, in Barcelona, the traffic-related noise alone accounts for around 40% of the total burden of disease attributable to urban and transport planning. And we have stated in several studies that the noise levels present in the city are pretty higher than the ones from the recommendation. We here have some numbers which are quite high. Just to share with the audience, remember that an increase of 3 dBs entails doubling the acoustic power, the level of the sound. So it's 10 dBs different. It's a huge difference. Attaining for this reality, the European authorities developed and designed a directive focused on 3 main pillars. They wanted to determine the exposure of the citizens to environmental noise. They wanted to ensure that this information is provided to the inhabitants of a city. And also they wanted the European member states to prevent and reduce this environmental noise where necessary, as well as preserve those areas where the quality was good enough. In particular, there is a very important instrument that is the noise map that the city or the urban area should develop every 5 years, and also the corresponding noise management action plans, which is mandatory for those big agglomerations, major roads, major railways, and major airports. In order to harmonize this process, the European Commission also defined and developed the GNOSOS-EU, which is a common noise assessment method, in order to find a similar method to obtain similar results in order to tackle the corresponding actions. In particular, in the classic approach, the noise maps have been generated by means of expert measurements using certified sound level meters, which are gathered in specific locations and time periods. After gathering this data, we compute these indicators, the equivalent noise levels, that provides us the levels of this noise pollution along the day, along the evening, the night, or in different time periods. This data is fed into some statistical approach that build a picture of the noise levels in the city by means of some commercial software. And after that, we can state the population and building exposure rates, as aforementioned, and we can disseminate and communicate these elements before defining the corresponding action plans, which are also mandatory to explain to our citizens. However, during the last decade, more or less, there is a change of paradigm under the smart city umbrella, thanks to the rise of the Internet of Things and the artificial intelligence frameworks, which have started allowing to develop a change of approach to monitor the environmental noise in urban and also suburban areas. And we are moving from noise maps, which are a static picture that should be reviewed every 5 years. And as we may wonder, during 5 years, there is a lot of things that can be changed. We can find new roads or some changes in the traffic and wherever. So, well, the acoustic environment are dynamic. So, as a combination of the IoT techniques and also the development of new sensors, new wireless acoustic sensor networks have been designed and deployed in order to continuous monitoring the acoustic environment of several cities. As a particular example, we've been a partner of a project Untitled Dynamap, which stands for Dynamic Acoustic Mapping at the European level, which started in 2014 and lasted until mid-2019. The main goal of which was to ease and reduce the cost of this periodically update of noise maps as required by the European directive. And we address that goal by developing a dynamic noise mapping system able to detect and represent in real time the acoustic impact of broad infrastructure. So we only focus on monitoring road traffic noise. The project was deployed into pilot areas on the urban area in Milan, across District 9 of the city, and along the A90 motorway surrounding Rome. This is the general block diagram of the project, of the system deployed. We have, on the one hand, the wireless acoustic sensor network that was designed and deployed in both pilot areas. Then we have some audio signal processing to compute on the edge computing on the nodes, the equivalent noise levels, and also to determine if the input sound levels came from road traffic noise or not. This variant was called an anomalous noise event, which should be discarded from the noise level computation. This data was sent to the central server, which had a pre-calculated spatial noise map, the static version of the noise map, and updated the information on a geographical information system to provide the output, which is shown in this slide as a dynamic noise map. And what is an anomalous noise event? We agreed within the consortium that an anomalous noise event should be those events that do not reflect the regular road traffic noise. That means the noise coming from the vehicle's engines and also the noise derived from the contact of the tires with the pavement. Why? Because if we were providing the city managers information dynamically that the noise level, the equivalent noise level, was getting higher and higher, they could interpret that this was due to, for instance, a traffic jam or an increase on the traffic. But as the sensor was deployed in the city, maybe we have some unexpected noise source here in the picture. For instance, a bird that was singing close to the microphone, so we are providing a wrong information. So from that, we designed an algorithm was called anomalous noise event detector in order to minimize the contribution of other noise sources to the computation of the road traffic noise levels. Here you have some examples like a siren, the presence of a tram, people talking close to the microphone, street works, the birds I also mentioned. To do so, we have the two possibilities. On the one hand, we could focus on the main class, acoustic class, which is road traffic noise, through some machine learning approach, which is called one class classification. Or alternatively, we could move to a two-class classifier in order to obtain a binary output of the analyzed input data. We opted for the second one after some tests I will show you later, although this is a highly imbalanced problem. As you may wonder, the main noise source is road traffic, and sometimes there is some anomalous noise event. This information was provided to the central server every second, so it's what it's called real time, in comparison to the 5 years update, which is a dramatic change of paradigm. Well, here you have the results comparing the one-class classifier classic approach with the two-class classification results from different classic machine learning techniques were trained with real-life data gathered before deploying both acoustic networks. And after having the networks installed in both pilot areas, we updated the database, which is a very key asset for the system, from the 24 nodes wireless acoustic sensor network in Milan and the 19 nodes deployed around Rome through a specific recording campaign. This entailed a huge effort for manual labeling from our expert listeners, which I would like to thank now, because it's been a very tough task, because we had to watch and listen all the gathered data in order to label them to train the algorithm. Here I include in the presentation a couple of examples. First, we will listen to a tram, that pass by of a tram close to a road. And second, a dog barking episode we could also record. Okay, this kind of sounds should be removed from the computation because they are not coming from regular road traffic noise, as already mentioned. So one of the hypotheses of the project was that the presence of these kind of events could bias the computation of the levels significantly. And during the project, we could state that not only individual high impact anomalous noise events like a siren or like a tram we could listen bias the computation by more than 2 dBs, which was the threshold considered as a significant impact. Also, low and mid impact anomalous noise events that co-occur within the same period of time also could bias the computation of the acoustic sound pressure levels, like the people or the bird songs or street works that during a period of time were present in the acoustic environment that we were monitoring. Last but not least, also we could see that the urban area is more vibrant than the suburban one, since we found a larger presence of medium and high impact events in comparison in the Milan city with respect to the suburban area, which was a motorway, as already mentioned. In order just not to talk about our project, I have included a couple of other examples which I think are quite relevant. One from the region surrounding Paris, which is a very large region, not only a city, but has been monitored with more than 150 sensors. And within the project, they have developed a specific tailored acoustic sensor called Medusa that tries to identify the origin of the noise source as well as computing the equivalent noise levels. Here you can see in the picture. Also, another remarkable project, this one in the USA, is Sonic, that stands for Sounds of New York City, that have deployed a large noise monitoring system with more than 70 nodes across the city in order to attend citizens' noise complaints, which is also an important issue when managing noise pollution in the cities. In this case, they have gathered a lot of data. Here in the last presentation, we could see that they were having more than 55 years of audit data, and they need the involvement of citizens by means of citizen science in order to level this huge amount of data necessary to train the deep learning technology. So in this case, they are only focused on specific noise sources that generate these, the main noise complaints from their citizens. Well, thanks to having deployed these acoustic sensor networks, we have been able to take an objective picture of what has happened in this very specific and particular period of time that has been the COVID-19 lockdown. Most of the cities around the world have become more silent outdoors. Here you have the comparison in the pre-lockdown and during the lockdown levels in the Paris region. Please take into account that the more red the colors, the higher the levels. So you can see the huge difference, which have been compared the difference from 6, 8 to 10 decibels, and they have also reported that the bird songs were more noticeable around the city. Also, specific acoustic episodes like the clapping for healthcare workers for supporting their huge role in the balconies of the cities here in the Sonic, but also they have been also reported here in Barcelona and Madrid and other kind of similar studies as a particular issue during this period that could be also noticeable thanks to the very low road traffic noise levels. In particular, also the Dynamap project studied this specific period, and we obtained quite similar results with reductions in the Milan city around 7 decibels, and also the quite significant reduction of the presence of anomalous noise events during this period. The people were staying mostly at home, and also in the Rome suburban area with maybe a little less reduction, as there was also the goods and this kind of traffic, and also some ambulances and so on. And here also we could detect that during the dawn, the bird songs were more present, and that's the reason of finding an increment of the presence of anomalous noise events in this area. Just to finish this overview about the COVID, we have just published, and we'll be presenting the results in the forthcoming Euronoise conference about the post-lockdown. As you can see here in the picture, after the red vertical line, the levels, this is the difference between the pre and the post. So more negative means more difference, more reduction. They are during the summertime, the levels of the acoustic noise levels measured remain more or less the same. And sometimes even higher because people were staying in the cities. And after that, they have again, in this return to the normality, being still lower than previous, but they are gradually recovering the previous levels, as you can see on the rightmost part of this picture. So just to conclude this presentation, we can share with you that besides air pollution, noise pollution also plays a key role if you want to make smart cities more sustainable. The WASM-based approach has allowed starting to develop new solutions for noise monitoring, dynamic noise mapping, as we have seen. In this context, audio signal processing has been tested successfully to particular applications, such as focusing on specific noise sources. And this is very relevant. It's important to gather more data from real life context, as the current trend is the application of deep learning techniques. And this is very important to take into account because obtaining large and reliable data entails a huge effort in persons month and cost and so on. Regarding the Dynamap, the ANET algorithm has been also successfully designed and implemented for monitoring only road traffic noise. So it was capable of discarding those events that present a high impact on the computation, that they could come both from individual and aggregate presence of events. And the COVID lockdown has had a significant impact on the acoustic environment across the world, which we were able to measure and objectively determine thanks to having these wasms deployed in the cities, and cities are gradually recovering the pre-lockdown noise levels as their activity are recovering also. But, well, this is just the first step towards this goal. There are a huge amount of open challenges that has been observed from these pilot projects after real-life operating conditions. For instance, to name a few, we have energy harvesting to move from urban, suburban to rural areas. We have a long-term investment for the deployment and maintaining costs. Also, there is a lot of issues still open to obtain robust and reliable low-cost acoustic sensors. There is a huge amount of data we should manage, so we have to implement some kind of big data-related techniques. Also, there are it opens privacy, security, and ethics. We are listening to the city, so maybe there's a conversation. So you have to think which is the best approach: edge, cloud computing. This information has to be integrated in the city management systems. And we have to keep working to extract and provide valuable information to the city managers to make the corresponding decisions. And just to finish, there are other applications of audio signal processing for turning smart cities more sustainable. For instance, these approaches can be integrated with other monitoring networks that are addressing air pollution, or with surveilling cameras, also moving from outdoors to indoors for obtaining smart homes or smart farming, or, for instance, monitoring some kind of endangered species in a rural area. So, well, that's it. I would like to thank all the people which has been involved in this project, and also the ones the students have been collaborating with us, and your invitation. Here you have my contact if you have any thing that you want to ask me later, but we have time in the question and answers section after the next presentation. I will be more than happy to try to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Francesc. We do have a bunch of questions that are already in the chat. We will read them after the two more presentations. So thank you so much for our speakers from La Salle, Barcelona. Next, please allow me to introduce our next speakers from the La Salle University, Manila, Philippines. Our third speaker will introduce different research laboratories of ADRIC, as well as their research thrusts focusing on research pertaining to sustainability and smart cities. So our next speaker is currently the director of ADRIC and an associate professor for the Computer Technology Department of the De La Salle University. She is doing research on effective computing, research on embodied and multilingual conversational agents in a telemedicine system. So let us all welcome Dr. Judith Ascaraga. Hi, Dr. J.
Hi. Can you now see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So, okay. Yeah. So, yeah, good evening and good morning to everyone. So, I'm here to present the research areas of ADRIC. So, ADRIC is the research center of the College of Computer Studies. Okay, sorry. Okay. So actually, ADRIC started way back in 1994 as a research unit of the College of Computer Studies. So the goal of this research center is to pursue innovative world-class scientific research in computing towards the vision of a research university. So basically, there are 9 research laboratories. So we have works on intelligent systems that interact with human users, embedded control systems, and Internet of Things. And we have research laboratories on data management and analytics. Okay, so following the research thrust of the university, ADRIC's research projects are focused on healthcare, environment, learning, innovation, culture, and society. So Our students, guided by their faculty mentors, have developed projects related to healthcare, not only for physical, but also on mental wellness. We had like projects like telediagnosis systems with embodied and chatbot agents, web-based progress monitoring of children with in the autism spectrum disorder, robot companion and chatbots for mental health and mental health support, virtual environment for those with some phobia, and also some specialized insole for adults with sensory deficiency. So these are just some of the projects involved in related to healthcare. And then we also have projects for the environment. These are projects where we utilize, like, for example, small helicopters, um, to improve countries' disaster response, road traffic surveillance, plant quality tracking, information systems for disaster recovery and risk management, and even the use of computer vision to identify vehicles and also some diseases in crops. Also, the highlighted project here is the intelligence structural health monitoring using a mesh of tremor sensors. And another is, so aside from the environment, we have learning and innovations. So these are some of the works that we have. So the goal here is to have projects to help students be motivated in their learning activities, providing them some chatbots or virtual agents to assist them in their learning activities. And even we have trying to have detect emotions based on some sensors, no? Detect emotions of students while they are learning something. And aside from that, we have uh, projects related to culture and society. So we use data analytics to gain insights from different forms of data like text, voice, image, social signals. And we also use this to create poverty indicator model, community detection of users using from Twitter, and even traffic simulation models. So these are just some of the projects for culture and society. So like what I mentioned, we have 9 research laboratories doing, working on projects that are aligned to healthcare, environment, learning innovations, and culture and society. So this is just one of the research laboratory, which is the Game Lab. So the Game Lab is for creating applications using virtual reality and augmented reality. So one of their highlighted projects is on image enhancement and also some virtual experience, no, in the LSU using augmented reality. And even they use augmented reality to teach subjects like physics. And then this is another work which is enhancing the resolution of CCTV videos, which is Corgi. And then another project which is under the other research laboratory, the COMET. So here they have, for example, this one. So this is a system wherein they have a visualization, no, on the evacuation centers, no, for flood-prone areas in the Philippines. So other highlighted project is the motivational techniques that aid drivers to choose unselfish routes. So here they focus on answering the question like how can we encourage drivers to follow unselfish routes in their daily commutes. So and then there's another one, the Navigo. So Navigo is another project. So wherein they have the drivers are presented with route recommendations that are accompanied by motivational and familiarity information. And then there's this another project using remote sensing to track sidewalk accessibility issues to improve urban planning. So here they develop a scalable data collection pipeline that was established through the collection of images, annotations, and accessibility scores. It involves a crowdsourcing tool that allows lay people to register and assess the accessibility of sidewalks. So these are just some of the mapping involved in the tracking the sidewalk accessibility. Then there's another one wherein they try to simulate the different train stations. So here they develop an integrated model that simulates 3 train systems in the Philippines. So included in this model is the simulation of passengers as they enter the station and wait at the platforms. Okay, so then we have another research laboratory, which is the Center for Automation Research. So here they are focused on research outcomes related to optimize productivity of processes, products, and services with the use of control systems, machines, and information technologies. So as you can see, some of the highlighted projects here is utilizing the technology of hot air balloon to provide internet access to remote areas. So this is a government-funded research project. So, and also this one, so this is another government-funded project called MESHM. So this is an intelligent structural health monitoring via a mesh of tremor sensors. So this is very useful, especially in the Philippines. That is, we always experience earthquake. So before we wait for the big one, so it's good to monitor the health of structure of buildings. So using AI and well-designed, low-cost multi-sensor nodes, they can detect structural defects based on relative signals in the mesh. So this is composed of researchers from computer science, from civil engineering, from network engineering, and even computer systems engineering. And then we have this bioinformatics. So this is more on using computational techniques to evaluate or to study DNA sequencing. And then we have another research laboratory for language technologies. So again, this is for creating chatbots and helping children to be motivated in their learning activities and even to assist their physical and mental wellness. And then we have here the SESI. So the SESI is more on human-centric innovation. So there's this, we use some empathic smart space wherein we use this to study multimodal emotion modeling and even empathic response modeling to build human-centered design systems. One of the highlighted projects is the IntelliSense. So this is a progress monitoring tool for children with special needs, like children in the autism spectrum disorder. And then there's this TED House. So this is located somewhere in the south of the Philippines. They are focused on more practical and innovative systems that can be tested on campus, deployed in a city, and once polished would be deployed in another country under the CASICO framework. Some of their research projects include a COVID app symptom tracker, a digital sandbox for children called Buklat that is used to learn about the safe and productive use of the internet, and the GB, which is a health wellness monitoring application for young children. Okay, so also TED House is working on Fix City, an e-participation platform where a student in a campus or a resident of a city can post or report about an issue that other members of the community can provide more details or offer solutions. One instance of Fix City is called Fix City Streets, which has been implemented and is being currently gamified in order to increase user engagement in terms of issues and solutions concerning street maintenance, traffic situations, and other transport-related issues. And then also in the TED House, they have ventured on more creative applications, such as the use of AI to transfer art style from master Filipino artworks to amateur art pieces, or from even well-known Filipino designer furniture to more generic IKEA type of sofas and chairs. Fix City has also been extended with some augmented reality features as a platform for city planners to view the streets and buildings in a 3D and plan major developments in the city. And their recent project involvement is with the FLEV and SORT projects funded by DOST, by the government. FLEV is the flexible design of electric vehicles. 5 EVs or electric vehicles will be built entirely by DLSU engineers to be tested on campus and deployed eventually in different cities in the country. And then we also have SORT. SORT is a suite of apps and smart systems for the optimal design of the transport system of a local government unit. These are other major external agencies that are involved in these projects. Maybe these projects can be presented in greater detail in the future, in the next sustainability lecture. And some of the smart apps have already been completed, and this will be enhanced with more smart and AI-based features. Okay, so lastly, they're even considering some behavior shaping mechanisms for drivers and even passengers, as well as profiling of passengers without seeking to identify them for purposes of collecting pertinent information as to the profile of passengers that avail of the transport system for a given time or given a day. Maybe this can be presented in the future. So again, thank you everyone for listening. So if you have further questions or if you want to know more about ADRIC, so this is our website and this is our email address. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Judith Ascaraga. So thank you for some of the questions that are already here. We will be answering them after our last talk. So let me introduce to you our fourth speaker from DLSU, who will be talking about research on smart cities in the Philippine context. He is currently an associate professor from the Computer Technology Department as well of the College of the Computer Studies of De La Salle University here in Manila, Philippines. His research or his areas of research interests are quite varied: digital signal processing and computer vision, corpus linguistics, robotics, and automation. Dr. Ilao actually also led a government-funded research named Titan, which developed a system that monitors vehicular and pedestrian foot traffic from video feeds taken by ordinary surveillance cameras. Using this project as a case study, he was awarded a Leaders in Innovation Fellowship for 2020 to 2021 by the Department of Science and Technology and the UK Royal Academy of Engineering. So let us all welcome Dr. Joel Ilao. Joel? Wait, I think... Sorry, hold on.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. I cannot start my video, and
There you go.
please give me a chance, access to screen. Okay, there.
Wait,
And then,
here you go. I think you can
okay.
share your screen now.
Okay, great. Let me just, okay. Okay, can you now see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Eunice, and my great respect to those who have to the speakers before me. I'm Joel Ilaw, and I'm really excited to be here to be presenting to you our projects related to sustainable development goals. And the journey that I, together with my colleagues and collaborators at DLSU and beyond, have taken as we take steps towards realizing the Philippine version of a smart city. Okay. So I'd also like to introduce to you my research area. And I know Dr. J. Ascaraga before me had introduced to you the whole research institute of the college. But there's this one center there called the Center for Automation Research where I belong to. And basically, if you try to imagine what the research center does, it all really revolves around development of different intelligent sensors. And you can see here the different faculty members who belong to our small group, most of us being in the computer technology department and software technology department. But we also have faculty affiliates who are currently on study leave from outside the country, and those are already based abroad, such as Cheska Laguna, who is completing her PhD studies in the US, and Dr. M. Gonzalez, also based in the US. Okay, so basically, what is the intelligence sensor? The idea here is that intelligence sensors could understand the data in a sense that, from the raw data, you could make sense of what information they are actually conveying. So if you look at the different pictures that you could see there, the idea is if we could pick any off-the-shelf device sensor and add a bit of electronics to it and do a bit of programming, it would behave differently from the normal behavior, such that it becomes really intelligent. So for example, if you take a camera and place it in an indoor basketball court, you would be able to program the system that could analyze the pictures and the videos to monitor how well a particular player improves his performance during training, as you can see here in the bottom left. Or if you use the camera in your cell phone and take pictures of a section of a sugar cane field, you could actually convert it to something that would be able to assess if a sugar cane plantation is already ripe for harvesting, as you can see here in the top left. Or you use another sensor for gaming, such as MS Kinect, and use that to observe how well people execute taekwondo movements and pair it with a speaker that emits different kinds of sounds. So if you combine them, you'd be able to come up with a system that could teach visually challenged students proper taekwondo, as you can see here in the top right. And if you place the camera underneath a drone that flies above a lake, you should be able to do that, to use the information that you gather there to monitor the status of the flora and the fauna of the lake, such as the harmful algal bloom, as we could see here in the bottom middle. And in the bottom right, there's an actual project that is designed to differentiate the fingerprints of identical twins. So all of these are real projects that were done by our students in the past. But having said that, let me focus on the concept of smart city. So we have another research program, the Smart City Research Program. In summary, we should be able to approximate high-end state-of-the-art technology using the Philippine context. So that's basically what that encapsulates. So you could see a scene from Metro Manila, although it's really not very representative, but you could see how different typical urban mega cosmopolitan mega city is like. No, it could be very busy, as you could see here. So if you imagine, it would be very, very difficult for us to just take some technology that were developed in first world countries and make it work in the Philippine context, because there's a really big difference in terms of the social demographic context and the accessibility of technology. So our vision is to be able to develop state-of-the-art technology that is aware of the Philippine social demographic context and should be locally accessible to our users. So it should be available within the local market. So let me digress first with the concept of smart city. So simply put, as you can see here in this image, it is a city that is infused with information and communications technology, such as internet infrastructure, internet-enabled devices, etc., that will make the running of the city and living in the city more convenient. So if you try to imagine the concept of a smart home, a car will arrive at the gate recognizes your car, it automatically opens without needing to call somebody to open the gate for you. You park your car and you reach your front door, the door senses that it's you, maybe through a biometrics or an RFID chip in your bag or wallet, and it automatically unlocks to let you in. And then when you enter the living room, and depending on the day, it would open the lights, particular appliances like aircon, electric fan, or even play relaxing music. And if it's exposed enough to you and learn your habits, it would be able to, turn on some appliances that will make your stay in your own living space much more convenient. So that's basically what a smart home is. But if you try to um, imagine the underlying mechanics behind it, it's basically all of the devices that are working together. There are sensors like the cameras, the temperature or light sensors, and then there are also what we call as the actuators. These are relays and motors that operate the appliances that are movable. Like, for example, it opens the gate, it unlocks the front door, or even switches that turn on the appliances on and off. And they send or receive data through a network. So basically, by doing that, they should be able to understand you and your habits and preferences as their user, meaning they're smart because they could recognize you and do something that will improve your stay there in the house. Now, the concept of a smart city is, imagine it to be larger scale, such as large as a city, and not just for one person, but a whole collection of citizens, and all of the sensing and actuating devices placed not just in the house, but almost everywhere, like multi-floor building or a set of buildings, even on the road, even street lamps, even at your car. And all of them, imagine, will be passing data to each other so that they could orchestrate their actions in ensuring the smooth running of a city operations. And smart cities shouldn't just work in normal events, but more so in critical or abnormal events, such as during natural calamities, where timely information dissemination is essential in critical and saving lives. So all of this have been made possible, especially in the most recent years, because there were catalysts that enable us to be more productive in our research. So there's the massive internet growth and advances in key technologies such as IoT and AI, giving birth to the often mentioned concept of Industry 4.0. And even as ordinary citizens, we are already besieged with so many information on a daily basis. But looking at it on a positive side, the Philippine-based researchers now find it easier to find academic materials and platforms in order to be updated with state-of-the-art research and even share their researches to others. In fact, I'm a product of purely Philippine education and was able to learn about international state-of-the-art research projects because of the power of the internet, which enabled me to access all of these materials. So I can imagine it being also the same for the rest of the students, whether all around the Philippines, no, for as long as they have internet connection. So it results in rapid R&D dissemination, and of course, this is possible through IoT and AI. But I'd also like to acknowledge the support of the Philippine government that has been very generous in supporting research, not just for public research institutions and SUCs, no, but also for private universities, including De La Salle University. In fact, if I would quote the R&D undersecretary of the OST, there's a 7-fold increase in government spending for R&D from 2010 to 2018. And this encouraged more collaborations, not just within the Philippines, but also internationally, and not just among private universities, but also public and private universities. So these really exciting times for us researchers. And I believe this whole sharing, the LaSalle Sustainability Series wouldn't be possible without all of this convergence of technologies taking place. So I'm really excited. Now, the very particular area under the smart city that I'd like to talk about today is under what we call as the smart transportation or intelligent transportation systems. So what is ITS? It is basically defined as systems in which information and communication technologies are applied in the field of transport, including infrastructure, vehicles and users, and in traffic management and mobility management, as well as for interfaces with other modes of transport. This, by the way, is a technical definition given by the European Parliament last July 2010. So in this category of technology, we now have smart cars that can automatically drive, cars that can alert drivers of impending collisions or even avoid collisions, cars that can communicate with each other to coordinate their movement. We call it as V2X, and making the experience of traveling safer and faster for the commuter. And aside from smart cars, we also have smart traffic lights that understand traffic congestion situation and be able to adjust accordingly to ensure the automatic and smooth flow of traffic. And even smart toll booths that can automatically sense and collect appropriate fees, sensors on the roads that can report to authorities those areas that have certain anomalies like accidents, or be able to understand if a particular car is already stalled and need action from authorities because they're probably in accident or you really bogged down and needed repair. So in De La Salle University, we've been delving on this ITS-related project since 2005. So more than 15 years ago. And before there wasn't much government funding available for doing research. So what we did here is that we started working on these projects and together with our students, okay, as typical student projects. Okay, and if you look at the time the formal definition of ITS was conceptualized, we are about 10 years behind um, from the time that it was formally defined as ITS. So in the list that you could see, we've had Philippine license plate recognition. So that's what you could see in 2005. We've also explored the idea of vehicle tracking from traffic cameras in a series of student research projects. So we started working on an idea and started refining through different generations of students. So these are VVET, or Vision-Based Vehicle Tracking, last 2006, and then we had VISTA 2007, we had 2015, it was Travis, and then the latest technology that I'll be presenting in the next few slides are termed as the VMON project and the Titan project. We also had FastCon, which is basically a project that detected and identified cars from cameras, traffic surveillance cameras, also recognizing the Philippine cars, Philippine type of cars. So here's an example of an early video of Alden, which detects Philippine license plates. So in the video, you could see when a car passes by a camera, it automatically takes a picture, automatically plates the license plate, and then it provides information about the recognized letters. So early in 2005, we really had to base it on a template, which forced us to measure all of the dimensions and the locations of the letters and the characters here so that we'd be able to have confidence in the license plate recognition. Last 2006, this is the very first vehicle tracking algorithm, vision-based vehicle tracking algorithm, using a rather old algorithm called active contour. So you could see what they did is they reversed the order of the frames so that the first instance that the car gets seen, it is the largest possible instance. And then when it backtracks, as it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, of course, the confidence gets smaller until it won't be able to see. So we've had good encouraging results after that. But then, of course, technology improved further and we revisited the idea of vehicle tracking. And when the opportunity to apply for government funding through the Department of Science and Technology came, we immediately grabbed the opportunity. So we were able to do a two-phase project. The first phase was completed last September 2018. We call it as VMON, Vision-Based Vehicle Monitoring System. And then there's a second phase, which we call as Titan, which is a much improved version of that vehicle monitoring technology. So in the interest of time, let me just refer to you to the team website for the Titan project. But as you could see here, as shown to the right, um, we were able to demonstrate the effectiveness of this approach by partnering with a team from the College of Engineering. And then what we did is we processed videos from government-owned traffic surveillance cameras, what we call as MMDA cameras, to monitor quarantine checkpoint operations um, made by the Philippine National Police during the community lockdown. So it was actually videos that were taken from EDSA all along a popular highway in Manila called EDSA, where we understood the vehicle queuing dynamics happening during checkpoint operations. They able to understand the traffic volume because of the presence of the quarantine checkpoints. What you could see here in the lower right are actually lanes um, that are differentiated according to color. You'd be able to see, some of the vehicles tend to swerve from one lane to the next. But there are also, you could see some particular instances where vehicles were actually called by the traffic enforcers so that they'd be inspected further. So this is the one that you could see with the red color. But we also moved beyond vehicle tracking. So you could see here student work, a Master of Science in Computer Science student work, where we did pedestrian tracking algorithm, and it was shown to be at par with state-of-the-art systems through common benchmarks. Okay, another one done by undergraduate computer science students where they developed a detector that could differentiate visually similar objects like bicycles and motorcycles from the vantage point of traffic cameras. And it was already published in an international conference held last February 2021. Another one by a recently graduated MS computer science student, but also a member of the team that I currently head right now. What he did is he took live stream videos that are known to be of less quality than pre-save videos, as you can see here on the left, and on the right you can see the videos having less than quality. The frames are typically pixelated. Some frames get intermittently dropped, causing skips in the object movements. And if you try to apply typical object detection approaches, they would really fail. So what we did is we tried developing algorithms that will improve the monitoring capability such that we could apply that to live stream videos. Okay, and we've also had a number of promotion and demonstration of the prototype. So we're proud that we've accomplished something, and now it's the time to promote it to some end users. So our primary end user is a government agency. We call it the Metro Manila Development Agency, which basically manages the traffic in Metro Manila. And you could see here the time that we visited them and demonstrated the technology to them. We're proud to say now that they have signed up to our pilot testing project so that we could really allow our target end users to use the technology so far. Okay, and another ongoing project with undergraduate information technology student is there are what we call as EDSA carousel, where it contains bus terminals also again along EDSA. And when we talked with MMDA, they wanted to detect overstaying buses automatically. So we're already doing a system for them so that they could use it after the project ends. And we've also promoted it to other would-be stakeholders and end users. What you see here on the left is our visit to Subic Bay Metropolitan Authority. And we've also talked about the idea to petroleum companies such as Total, as you could see here. In fact, one of our pilot testers right now in our latest DOST funded project is pilot testing it with different companies from different fields. So there's this petroleum stations, there's a real estate company, there's a parking authority, there are LGUs, there are government agencies. So we hope to be able to demonstrate the utility of the system to different kinds of companies and contexts. Now, let me go back to the concept of a Philippine smart city. The big question is, how soon will we have a Philippine smart city? So there's this study done by the Institute for Management Development that made a study on smart cities. And based on the results, you can see that Manila is on the journey to being one. Manila may have been at the bottom end of this list, on the list of 109 cities. It is ranked 104 out of 109 cities. But if you consider that there are 10,000 cities around the world, um, putting that into context, that's already quite an achievement. So you could actually visit the website of the Smart City Index downloadable report. And when you read that, it becomes apparent that while there may be a common definition of a smart city, the cities that you see listed there have different issues and problems to contend with, which requires customization of the corresponding ICT-based solutions. And you can also see in this slide, I singularly picked out the results of the Manila city. You could see that those that I've highlighted are transport-related problems that, are considered to be the top concerns of at least the citizens of Metro Manila. So I would imagine this also applies to other urban Philippine cities such as Metro Cebu and Metro Davao. And that is why I really firmly believe at this point that our research priorities in the field of ITS are well-reasoned and well-founded. At the Association of Southeast Asian Nations level, there's what we call as ASCN, or the ASEAN Smart Cities Network, which was established in 2018 to catalyze the upgrade of megacities in Southeast Asia to smart cities. As you can see, there are 3 cities in the Philippines: the Manila, the Cebu, and the Davao belong to this network. And if you read the report, you could see that the representatives of the cities have identified action plans that are hinged on improving the ICT infrastructure and services to make them closer to being a smart city. So I was talking earlier, maybe you're wondering, how could our technology on vision-based monitoring be applicable if we don't have infrastructure in the first place? With all of the things happening in the Philippines, I'm really confident that by the time that we be able to mature the technology, the infrastructure would have reached the level of maturity as well to meet the requirements such that our system on vision-based object detection and monitoring would work productively. So to close, I would like to say that we really live right now in a very exciting time, enabling us from people all around the world to share the idea that we are all gathered here to share our research ideas from different parts of the world together and to be able to talk about these things. That's really exciting for me. And I'd like you to invite you to be more aware and more observant of the things that are happening right now, because it may sound so far-fetched from this point, but come a few months later, you'd see them eventually happening. So I don't want you to be caught flat-footed when this actually happens. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you learned something.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Joel Ilaw. So with that, we conclude all of our speakers for tonight. So we do have a few questions. So we are now very open for questions. So feel free to unmute. Sorry, no, just post your questions in the chat, and I will now read some of the questions that came out. So to start, we do have a question from Dr. Tan. So this is probably a question for Dr. Francesc and Dr. Rosa. How was your R&D affected by the pandemic, and what kind of measures were taken to get the work back on track for your research institute? Sorry, Dr. Rosa, I think your mic's not working again. There you go.
Can you?
Yes.
Hopefully most of our projects were not stopped during the pandemic, apart from the ones that had to be conducted in for example, in the street or in some places that were closed. So most of them, we continued working on them, even for companies from home. And when it was possible, we came back to the laboratories to do all the tests that were required. But probably one of the larger changes that we suffered last year was the new ideas that came out due to the pandemic. In the way that some of our researchers found out to propose new projects to new calls that were generated basically to cover all the needs that were required for that time. And we even opened some new projects focused on the COVID-19. So I mean, it was not an easy period, but we could manage to keep on with our activity, except for that places that were really closed.
Great. Thank you so much for that. It's good to know that it wasn't too affected for your case. Another question for Dr. Rosa. Do you also do a follow-up study of your graduates to find out if they are actually fulfilling the university goal of transforming the world as professionals? If you do, what have you so far found out in terms of how they are trying to transform the world? And this is a question from Dr. Kobenko.
Yeah, actually, this is nice. Nice question, thanks, and it's also a nice job to do. And I would, there are several ways to follow our students when they are out in the world working. One is the association of alumni that we have here, that they gather all of them and sometimes of the year they propose them activities to gather together and to meet. And another one that I think it's quite interesting is not this maybe more social and more focused on their companies, but another that's when they come back here, sometimes asking for help, asking for collaboration, or offering collaboration from their companies. And this is quite a beautiful thing that happens a lot of times. And they come back because they remember what we do. And they even look for their lecturers to find out if they could collaborate together in the way they work in the companies. So there are several manners to follow them in their activity, but I find this one especially beautiful in the sense that it's their position that they come back to university to look for something. No? So somehow it's the way we know that we could reach them and live somehow in their way of working Lasallian values.
Right. Okay, cool. Thank you so much. And Dr. Kabenko also says that I hope we can have more collaborative presentations like what we are having today among Lasallian researchers from different LaSalle schools across the different regions. So thank you so much for that one. I also have a question specifically for Dr. Francesc from, I think this is from Dr. Mac Cordell. I am curious about, so he is curious about the acoustic level drops with distance and other external ambient factors like temperature and humidity. May we know how did you compensate for it, or how did you normalize the effect of the different acoustic sensor positions and distances from the ground?
Yeah, this is a very, very good question. Thank you, Mac, for sharing us that idea. Yeah, this is one of the open issues I explained at the end, because these new low-cost sensors have to address this maintenance. So they have to keep working properly with different temperature, with different humidity, and so on. So that was one of the issues of the Dynamo project. One of the partners, in this case an industrial partner, tested for a long time all the sensors and try to find the way to obtain reliable solutions in a affordable cost. That this is a trade-off. Of course, you have to keep monitoring and looking at the results, and the obtained levels are working pretty well. And then you have to invest. So the company, in this case, the company that manages all the roads, has invested to keep maintaining these issues. And regarding the noise and this kind of differences on the propagation and so on and so forth, they are taken into account when designing the position of the sensors and in the statistical back office system that generates the static maps. So it's taken into account through models and getting information from the national agency, in this case, the Italian agency. So it's taken into account.
Very cool. There's also another question, like from Bea de Ocampo. I actually missed this one earlier. Were you also able to separate out noises coming from different emergency vehicles? Because you earlier mentioned you were able to separate some of the ones. The reason why she's asking is they have a project where they have to identify emergency vehicles.
Yeah, it's something that could be done. As far as I try to explain, the focus of Dynamap was only discarding this kind. So we have two main classes, road traffic, whatever is not road traffic. However, within this big class, the emergency sounds like the sirens were quite easy to detect. So we have to move and adapt that technology to that specific goal. That could be done with having enough data, and if the sounds are pretty different, it's quite easy. If we can listen and differentiate them, the artificial intelligence approach, in general terms, also can do so. So it can be done. Thank you for the idea and the question.
All right, thank you. I think we have one more question for Dr. Francesc. So I'll ask this one question first. Could one argue that, so this is from Mark Pottinger, coming to you from New York City, USA. So question to Dr. Francesc. Could one argue that a result of your research would be to divide cities in quadrants so that a business district would actually have a different certain noise decibel level, while a resident district would have a certain noise decibel level to allow for a balance in the desirability of functions, for example, in commerce, quiet living, etc. It's this way of the future. Is this the way of the future and not mixed urban planning, which is a desire for equitability and access to resources? So yeah.
Thank you very much for the question. It's providing the city managers this kind of information, we will allow them to make decisions. Here, maybe you have already read that in Barcelona we have the project which is called Super Blocks, trying to find some areas of the city that are more sustainable for the citizens, in order to reduce the noise, in order to make more walkable and these kind of things. So there are some attempts across the world that trying to rethink the cities that were mainly designed maybe 2 or 3 or 4 decades ago for moving the car vehicles, which are the main topic there. And now we are changing this paradigm, and having this information can allow us to design something that is more focused on leisure, for instance, or for industrial area, and then to separate these impacts, or even to make a mix, because it's interesting that people don't travel too long from home to their job in order to reduce the carbon footprint. And well, we have the air pollution, we have the acoustic information, we have the surveillance, as Joel explained. So putting all these things together are providing information. However, nowadays, this is a big change of paradigm. So we have to get aware of the authorities and start thinking about that. So it's an opportunity.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like trying to divide all of the city into actual separate blocks instead of putting them all together, so that we can avoid all of the noise as well. Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. We do have a question from the presentation from Doc J. also from Bea. So may I ask for a little elaboration on what you mean by unselfish routes for drivers? Because so I think this is a project from Dr. Brian Sampson. I think he's also in the call. Brian, would you want to elaborate?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Um, so what we meant by unselfish routes in our project is so these are suboptimal routes. So the main motivation of this project is if we imagine a city wherein there is central control, um,
Hmm?
if we imagine a city wherein there is a central control of central control of all cars running on our roads, could we encourage other drivers to take on suboptimal routes so that we could lessen the traffic congestion or at least avoid the formation of congestion on our roads? So that's what we meant by suboptimal. And by suboptimal, that doesn't mean that they are very bad routes. So these are still close to optimal routes. So they can still be fast, they can still be short, but they are not the fastest or the shortest. So yeah, so that's what we meant by unselfish.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brian Sampson, for quickly answering our question as well. So we have one more question. This one is directed for Dr. Joel Ilao from Dr. Arnie Escarga. So viewing smart cities actually as a scaled up smart home might miss the fact that within a home, everyone knows each other. So while in a big city, privacy and confidentiality of information become much more critical. Can you share with us the kinds of projects you are aware of that are taking privacy of city residents into consideration? And maybe our friends for Barcelona may also share their experience if you have any from this aspect of privacy and confidentiality.
Okay, that's an excellent question, Doc Arnie. I remember Francesc alluded to that no, when he in his final slides where he talked about research ethics. We also encountered that same issues as well. Whenever we would conduct a research project, we always ensure with our research funds grantor that we will be taking care of the data that we will be collecting carefully, making sure that the data would only be accessible by legitimate members of the research team and will not be shared and used for projects that are beyond the scope of the project we've declared the data that we're collecting to be in. And there are projects actually that basically remove some info, for example, some images or videos that show people. I've seen some projects based on review-related literature that actually mask out persons, at least the identifiable features of persons, because they are not necessarily important when you try to monitor other parts of the scene, or other information that could locate or give information about um, the owners of a particular vehicle, like the license plate, if you try to cross-reference that with the Land Transportation Office, for example. But right now, what we're doing for our projects to be on the safe side is just monitor traffic volumes and count the kinds of cars. We don't yet go into license plate recognition for the system that I am referring to as what we were doing for our pilot testing. But Frances could also add to that. Or
Thank you. Yeah, totally agree. We must take this issue into account. It's very relevant. And in the example I show you about the Dynamap, we decided to compute the information and just to send a level. It's road traffic or not road traffic. So that's a way to get privacy. So and also we have all these kind of processes. Previously, we present the proposal to a ethics committee, and we have to explain which kind of data we will gather, who will be allowed to process. So it's a very relevant issue when we are monitoring and watching or listening to our cities. So yeah.
Definitely. So I think ethics and privacy, confidentiality, those are really hard questions that we have to answer as well when we deal with a lot of surveillance research as well as dealing with a lot of data. Because personally, I also work with a lot of data science research, and it's certainly something that we help teach as well. So there's another follow-up question for that. With regards to these ethics of smart cities, it actually allows us to manage the actions of a collective group for better sustainability. Simply stated, it is social engineering to create a more passive society, as convenience and central management are the keys to a smart city. So, but what are your fears of smart city use by military industrial complexes for Dr. Joel?
Mhm.
What do you think?
Let me just correct me if I'm wrong. So you're referring to the fear that maybe this could be used like a Big Brother kind of thing, where they will be monitoring, surveilling all people. I think this is already covered by research ethics as well, in a sense that um, it will only be used. What we do is we only use the technology for the declared intended use. So if of course we know that we need to be very responsible as researchers, that we don't get tempted to um, get other information that we have not officially declared. But yeah, I understand your point. That could be misused or even abused. But right now, I'd like to assure you that we are not going that route.
All
Mhm.
right, thank you so much for that. I'm not sure if there are other questions. Are there any follow-up questions from the audiences? Um, I guess, let me see. I guess if there's no more additional questions, um, there is an evaluation that is currently in the chat. So for our participants, kindly click on the link to answer the evaluation that is present. And we would like to call on. So thank you again to our speakers. Thank you so much, Dr. Frances, Dr. Rosa, Dr. Joel, and also Dr. Jay for sharing all of your insights and projects. So before we close the entire pod, sorry. Oh, sorry. Before we close of the event, we would like to invite Dr. Carmelita Cobenco, our Chancellor Emeritus and member of the IALU Research Committee, to give our closing remarks.
Good evening and good morning to all of you, wherever you may be. First of all, I would like to thank our guests today, Doctors Rosa, Frances, Jay, and Joel, for their very informative and interesting presentations. Thank you as well to Dr. Raymond Tan, K. Abiso, and our co-host, Eunice Chua, for managing the webinar on sustainability today. I hope we can have more collaborative research among Lasallian researchers all over the world, as well as collaborative presentations such as what we had today, as well as joint publications of their research. Particularly, we welcome joint research, joint activities from Lasallian schools across the regions. No? I think we have enough going on within the same country or across countries, but in the same regions. But we need to have more collaborations across regions. I'd like to thank each of the participants in this webinar for joining us today. Please join us again in our next webinar on sustainability, which will be on the last Wednesday of October. The information will be disseminated to you all maybe in a week or so from now. So again, thank you to everyone.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Carmelita Covenco, for your closing remarks. To everyone, kindly please stay on. We have some more announcements from Dr. K. Aviso.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And I just wanted to announce our next sustainability lecture series. So it's going to be on the last Wednesday of October. It's on October 27. And this time we'll talk about obstacles to inclusive and equitable quality education, which addresses SDG 4, particularly in application to the Philippines. So we'll look at insights from applying machine learning approaches to the PISA 2018 reading proficiency data. So we will have the lecture at 8 o'clock in the morning, Philippine Standard Time. So please register at bit.ly/DLSU10, or you can scan the QR code and it will take you right to the registration portal. So hope to see you guys on October 27. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. And I hope you have a good night, good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you may be.